Hey, welcome back to another Steelers in Hoboken weekly podcast. I'm your host, Ray Powers. Some people call me a lunatic. Other people, let's face it, you all call me a lunatic. And as the season gets closer and closer, you'll all have me committed at some point. I know it. It's okay. So, it's been a couple of slow weeks in the Steelers preseason. And not so much the case this week. For everybody out there who was complaining and lamenting that the Steelers could not win a preseason game, probably would not win a preseason game, guess what? They won a preseason game for you. They beat the Green Bay Packers at Heinz Field. Isn't that awesome? Can I get a standing ovation for the Steelers? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, see that? Look at that. They're off the hook. They're off the schneid. They won a preseason game. Oh, my God. The sun's going to come up. Oh, wow. You got that one out of the way. There'll be no 0-5 preseason. Wow. Maybe the NFL Network will accept the Steelers now. Who cares? Who cares? I want the NFL Network to rank the Steelers number 32. I want them to write them off every year, and I want them to look stupid. Because they are stupid. So every time they spout something, if they're on ESPN, if they're on the NFL Network, I usually turn the volume down. CBS, NBC, Chris Collinsworth. His name should be worth less. Chris Collinsworth less has a better ring to it. Phil Simms. All of these Steeler haters, the ones that get on the network and they just live to hate the Steelers. They have nothing positive to ever say about them. And with Chris Collinsworth, I can understand it. He has an axe to grind. I mean, he had to go across the middle and see Jack Lambert twice a year, Jack Ham twice a year, Donnie Shell. That wasn't a fun gig. So, if he hates the Steelers, well, I really can't say I blame him. I would hate the Steelers, too, if I wasn't such a fan. And every time I got up after catching a ball or attempted to catch a ball, I was looking through my ear hole. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. And for those of you who might not know, who might be too young to know, Chris Collinsworth was a wide receiver for the Bengals back in the late 70s and all through the 80s, I think. So, he had to face the Steelers twice a year. And, it wasn't fun having to face the Steel Curtain. I would imagine that would be painful week to week. The same thing with Warren Sapp. He hates the Steelers because a long time ago, he made the poor choice of skipping like a 4-year-old girl because he doesn't have any manhood to him. Warren Sapp, back when he was a defensive tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, before he was an Oakland Raider, it was 2002, and he went skipping like a little girl through people's practice lines, and he thought it was funny. And he would do this all the time, apparently. Well, he tried it with the Steelers. I say tried it because when he got to the Steelers skip line, or through their stretch line, rather, he was grabbed by Joey Porter. Poor choice. Going through there and, eventually this was going to happen. Porter grabs him and basically, I don't know what he said to him, but if you could read lips, he had grabbed him up near the throat and... immediately, Keyshawn Johnson, who was also a Buccaneer at the time, not the smartest kid in the world, another dummy who works for the networks now, he tried to get involved, and he was grabbed just as quickly by James Farrier. And Farrier basically told him, nah, you better stay out of this before I rip your head off. And it was an embarrassing thing for the hippo. I forgot his name, Warren Sapp. It's too early in the morning to be spouting garbage like that. And ever since then, he's hated the Steelers. I can't blame him. If I made a poor choice like that, and I had no interest or any type of equity in the Steelers as a rooting entity, I would hate him too. You made me look bad on TV, and, I don't have anything else going for me because I'm a piece of garbage. Then I would hate the Steelers too. And every year he tries to write them off. Remember the old, slow, and finished, what did he say about the Steelers in 2010, right? Their defense was old, slow, and it's over because they had gotten routed in week 1 when they played the Ravens. Opening week, got embarrassed on TV. Or was it 2011? It might have been 2011. And they were coming off the Super Bowl year. And Warren Sapp had just delighted in the fact that the Ravens had just stomped the Steelers. And he went on TV and said, their defense, man, it's slow. They're slow, they're old, and it's over. And he wrote them off for the year. And all they did was finish 12-4, and they wound up in the playoffs. So, yeah, he's anything Warren Sapp says, you can pretty much do the complete 180. But that's why these guys hate the Steelers so much. And being week 3 in the preseason and week 4, I can't even keep track anymore. The Steelers played that extra game, and now I'm all thrown off. But they won a game and they lost 2. So they have 2 more to go. Right, this would normally be the 3rd week of preseason. That extra game really screwed me up. But, the first 2 weeks were pretty quiet. And, we saw rookies come and go and this and that. And now the season's getting closer. And last week, the Steelers beat the Packers, but at a price. They lost Marcus Pouncey. Again, he got his leg rolled, and, he's always hurt. And I know you can't avoid somebody rolling on your leg, but my God, the guy just seems like he's always hurt. And I got to say, he's kind of been an abject disappointment to me. Physically, he seems to have conditioning issues, which I'm sure is not helping with all these injuries. But even when he was hurt last year or the year before, he's taking pictures on Twitter, selfies, and, he's way out of shape. And I mean, I know you're an offensive lineman, but you're a center. You're supposed to be a strong guy. And he just looked like he was not taking care of himself. And I noticed he's covered in tattoos. And I don't judge him for being covered in tattoos, but someone else made the point on this feed. Like, he posted this picture he was all proud of. And it's like, well, dude, your tattoos look great and all, but maybe you can get off the tattoo table for 5 minutes and, get on a treadmill. I don't know. He's not the smartest guy in the world either. Remember after the Denver playoff game, Tim Tebow, I don't want to relive that nightmare. We just talked about that with the 12-4 year, but he gets into a Twitter war with the fan who basically got on the Steelers for losing that game, and he got on and said, well, I'm still rich, ha ha, or whatever, and just a real irresponsible thing to say. That just always stuck with me. But Pouncey goes down. Gradkowski goes down in the game, breaks a finger or whatever. So it's like now you have to replace a quarterback and a center. Not a good start. So the Steelers, nobody really gave Gradkowski a chance anyway because he never played. Roethlisberger, I think, took every snap under center last year as a quarterback. It was crazy. But you still need a backup quarterback. And now, more importantly, you need a center. I say more importantly because people don't realize, but your quarterback may be your most visible position on the field, but your starting center is the most important. You lose a starting center, your whole offensive line is thrown off and everything. I mean, the center touches the ball every time. He has to snap the ball and start the play. He's the most important guy. He's got to drop into coverage. It's one of the hardest positions to play, and he gets basically very little credit for a job well done. If he jumps off sides with a full start, people know his name and his number. But if you don't hear his name called all game, he did his job perfectly. So with Pouncey out, the Steelers went and they re-signed Doug Legursky. And I thought that was just the best move that could possibly be made. He plays 3 positions. The big guy from Beckley is back. I've been following Doug Legursky since Marshall, and the guy is phenomenal. I don't know why they let him go the first time. I thought it was a huge mistake to let him go. You've got a guy who can play guard, he can play tackle, and he can play center. And he can play all 3 of them like a starter. Maybe he's not a Pro Bowl player, but he can certainly fill in all 3 of those positions very, very well. Solid guy. And then as a pure center, the Steelers went and got back Cody Wallace. Another guy I loved last year, or the year before. I think it was last year he played. Again, I'm losing track, but I know it was a time when, again, Pouncey was out. So Wallace filled in, and he's a guy who plays with some snarl. He's a feisty guy. I've seen, a lot of pushing and shoving. He's right in there, and he's basically protecting his quarterback and his other guys. And he seems like he's an intense guy. And you need that. You need some of those on offense, and you need some of those, obviously, on defense. But I'm like, what a great day. I saw basically, I think it was the same day, Cody Wallace and Doug Legursky, two quality linemen, there they are plugging gaps again. It's like, man, the Steelers do not have an issue anymore, it seems, with an offensive line. That was always the issue, even during the 2 Super Bowl years. They won, it seems like they won Super Bowls in spite of having no offensive line. And now it seems like that's like the most cohesive part of the team, or that's certainly one of the deepest aspects of the Steeler team. And I'm thinking, wow, what a great day. Doug Legursky signed. Cody Wallace signed. This is awesome. I guess that's where it all ended, right? The Steelers continued to make headlines, didn't they? They still have to address the big issue of another quarterback, a backup quarterback. Not that the guy's ever going to play, because Ben Roethlisberger plays all the time. And no, they need another quarterback because nobody believes in Landry Jones. And Landry Jones has to be the third deep guy in the team. We don't like the guy and he can't play, but we'll keep him as a third-string quarterback. Whatever, I don't know. So I see on the social media pages, somebody comes to camp, or somebody was being brought to Steeler camp, and they were talking to this one individual, and it was that guy who killed dogs. He was convicted of killing dogs. You know his name. And I guess everybody at first thought it was a joke, and they're like, are you kidding me? What? What is he, delivering lunch or something? For Subway? Ooh, is it too soon to mention Subway? But here's this convicted dog killer who the Jets just let loose, and now all of a sudden he's talking to the Steelers. And right away, as it became more apparent that this guy actually was on Steeler property, as soon as it became apparent that he was invited to camp and it looked like, oh, wow, now as the day goes on, the Rooneys are interested in this guy, came to light that Tomlin wanted this guy back in 2009 when the dog killer was first paroled and served his time for killing all these dogs. He actually didn't serve time. He actually didn't get arrested for that, I understand, or he wasn't charged with killing dogs. He was charged with gambling or whatever it was, because this was a dog fighting ring, and it was, people were betting on these dog fights and stuff, whatever the case. At the end of that day, everybody had forgotten that Doug Legursky and Cody Wallace were new Steelers. I don't think people could even tell you who Doug Legursky was at the end of the day after this media circus that followed the eventual signing of a 1-year deal with this dog killer. The Steelers now have a dog killer on their payroll. And immediately, as you can imagine, well, the Steelers aren't used to media circuses. The Rooneys have always been really good about avoiding media circuses. Well, not today. This day, Steeler camp, I've never seen Steeler fans more divided, at each other's throats. And it was pretty much a 50-50 division of people saying, you got to give this guy a chance. When are you going to give this up already? How long does the guy have to pay for his sins? They're only dogs. Everything you can imagine hearing. The most potent one, the biggest argument, but he could help us. He's a great athlete, which at the end of the day is really what sports have become. It doesn't matter what you do. Your transgressions don't matter. And maybe that's a better way of looking at it, because let's face it, if you open the closet at any of these guys, I'm sure 90% of them would appall you. I'm sure my closet would appall you, and maybe your closet would appall me. Maybe we're all hypocrites, but the main thing was, what I took from all this is a lot of fans out there will excuse anything they have to in order to root for their team. The guy could have a nameplate that said Hitler on the back or Satan on the back, and it wouldn't matter to them. they'll either say, well, that's fine. I don't care about his past. I don't care what he does when he's not on the football field. As long as when he's on the field, he produces. And, maybe that's a better way of looking at it, because you'll drive yourself crazy if you try to police these guys and play moral police. And, of course, the other half, with a conscience, we're like, look, we're not talking about a traffic ticket here. We're not talking about a DUI. We're not talking about this guy got stupid in a club and got thrown out, or was caught with pot or steroids. This guy cold-bloodedly murdered dogs. And by the way, he was, in this report, he had actually physically murdered some dogs. Not all of them, but whatever the case was. This dog killer, who was brought up on charges of whatever, racketeering, gambling, dog killing, did almost 2 years in prison and came out seemingly contrite. I guess once you're caught, you might as well be contrite. There's the argument, well, he only became contrite because he was caught, or he'd still be doing it. Well, isn't that the case for bank robbers and everybody else? You're going to do something until you're caught. So, it's one of these things that's really tough it puts you in a tough place. And I'm not perfect. I shouldn't judge this guy. I just can't. I'm a dog lover. Okay. I know I'm going in circles here. Just bear with me. I'm a dog lover. I've been on pit bull rescues. We owned a rescued pit bull for 13 years. She was a beautiful brindled pit bull, a beautiful American Staffordshire. That's what we told people. She was an Amstaff, an American Staffordshire Terrier, because pit bull obviously is a red flag for some people. But beautiful dog, and I've been on other rescues as well. And if you had seen some of the abuse that these dogs endure, and I hadn't seen even the tip of the iceberg, but every time I see this dog killer's face, I can't help it. All I want to do, still to this day, is just put this guy's face through 3 inches of sheetrock. Grab his head and just put it through the nearest wall. And I can't help it. It makes my blood boil, because I'm a dog lover. And that's just my issue I have to get past, because I can't do that on the street if I see this guy. But I'm sure somebody would see me on the street and from this podcast go, I don't like your voice. You're obnoxious. I want to put your head through 3 inches of glass. Well, whatever. Maybe I deserve it. But the unbelievable. I mean, if the Steelers wanted a trend for a day, mission accomplished. Because you brought this polarizing figure to undersell him into camp. You sign him. And right away, again, half the people are like, yay, he's a Steeler. He can help us. He'll probably never play anyway. Well, you're still paying him. So even if he never gets in a game for you, you've accepted him. So there's no halfway with that. And the other half were like, this guy's a dog killer. What are the Rooneys thinking? My God, is it really just winning at any cost? Is there no ceiling for decency? And, I asked this question on Facebook, and only one person could answer me. Nobody else would deal with it, because a lot of the fans, I would say 3/4 of the fans right away were like, oh man, why did you do this to us? Why did you put us in this position where we have to root for this guy? I call this guy a dog killer as an Eagle. I call him a dog killer as a Jet. We hung this over those teams' heads, because let's face it, the Jets and the Eagles are notorious for having the worst fan bases in football. Okay? And they've also been known dumpster divers. Terrell Owens, Rex Ryan, Plaxico Burress, Santonio Holmes. Riley Cooper, had that moment where he was white trash. I mean, let's face it. The Eagles haven't won anything since the Super Bowl era started. 1960 was their last championship. The Jets, 1968. I mean, these teams are desperate to make headlines because, the Giants basically own that part of the geographical map. Even like New Jersey is split. Philadelphia. I'm getting beside the point. Both of these teams, anytime they can make a splash or get any kind of fan interest, they'll do it. So signing a dog killer was probably good for them because it just put them on the map somewhere. The Steelers always prided themselves as, we don't want to get involved in that. They even told HBO Hard Knocks to shove it. We don't want you in our camp. We don't want distractions. And I love that about the team. More than anything else, that's what I love, is that they've always had this standard of, we're not getting involved in that. That's garbage. It's BS. Save that for the sensationalist teams that need the attention. The Buffalo Bills, who are 7-9 every year and are just mediocre. Not bad enough where people are noticing, but they're not good enough to ever get out of this just this mired, mediocrity. So, the Steelers, that disappointed me. The fact that the Steelers would partake in such a feeding frenzy in a circus. And the Rooney family had to know. They're not new at this. You had to know by bringing on a polarizing figure that you were going to split camp. And a lot of Steeler fans are still upset. And a lot of them aren't happy, but a lot of them are going to tell themselves anything they have to get past this, because a lot of people don't have the stomach to basically do what maybe they want to do, and maybe they want to boycott a year. But I waited for Super Bowl. I waited for the season to start since January, when the Steelers last lost a football game. And I can't do it. I can't do the 4 or 5 months and not watch my team. And that's most fans. There are some fans that they will lose over this. I mean, there's already a few that have dropped off, and I'm sure there'll be more to follow. And the judgment just absolutely, it amuses me at this point, because there's so much self-righteousness going on both sides of this. It's the fans who are on board no matter who's on the team. Saddam Hussein's a quarterback, that's fine, as long as he can win. And if you're not behind this guy, you're not a true fan. You were a bandwagon fan, and you were never a fan to begin with. And who needs you? Don't come back when you're rooting for this guy, because we don't want you. And that's been their mantra. Which, you're a hypocrite, because let's face it, you have a moral boundary too. Everybody has one point where they go, look, this is too screwed up. I cannot back this. For most people, dog killing is not that boundary. But I asked a difficult question. What would it take for you to say, I'm out, I can't back this? Would it be a guy who was convicted of child molesting? A guy who ran a human trafficking ring? Somebody who, drove a bus full of nuns off a cliff? Everybody has a point where they say, I can't back this. And I asked that question, I even brought up the KKK. I said, if you found out this guy was, a high-ranking member of the KKK, could you back this guy? And there were a lot of minorities in this one group who was like, oh, they pulled out the race card right away, and you know how that goes. And of course, that was crushed by a lot of social media moderators, to their credit. But I asked them that question. I said, okay, while you're on this, could you back a member of the KKK? Oh, damn, you went there. Answer my question. I just want to know, what is your moral boundary here? Everybody has a threshold. What's yours? Nobody would touch it, because they didn't want to even touch this. They never thought this day was coming. This was their biggest nightmare. The Steelers would never go out and sign a dog killer. They wouldn't do it. It's the Rooneys. Well, they did it. And now it's in your face. And now it's like, oh, well, okay. Survival mode. The season's starting. I already bought my jersey. I have my tickets already. What am I going to do? Well, I'll have to rationalize my way through this. And most of us will, because we're hypocrites. We're all hypocrites. The ones who are accusing people of being bandwagon fans, you do have your threshold. You just haven't seen it yet. And to accuse half of Steeler Nation, if it wasn't half of them, I would say you might have a point. But if the Rooneys were able to upset half of their fan base, the largest fan base in the NFL, or just about the largest fan base in the NFL, the true fans, we all know the true fans are the biggest fan base. You got the Cowboy fans who are Cowboy fans when they're good, but millions and millions and millions of fans all over the U.S., half of them were upset. I would say that's a legitimate gripe. I mean, you at least have to take them seriously and say, well, why are you upset? And apparently the Rooneys saw enough in this guy where they said, we're going to do the Catholic thing, the Christian thing. We're a Catholic family. We have to go all the way on this. We can't go halfway. If we're going to give someone a second chance, we can't make that distinction of, well, this is too screwed up of a crime for us or whatever. Apparently, they saw that he had come far enough, and they impressed. He impressed them, and I still don't think maybe the Rooneys don't impress easily. I'd like to think that. And again, I don't like it. A lot of people don't like it, but the whole thing was just the fans getting on each other, and you really cannot call somebody who's had season tickets since Forbes Field a bandwagon fan. Okay, they have every right to be upset and take a team to task if they see something screwed up. So, a lot of these people calling people bandwagon fans are fans that are so young they've yet to see a losing season, which only goes back to 2003. But the first time they ever saw a Steeler game, Wiz Khalifa was on a microphone someplace, going, "Oh, look, a black and yellow." Yeah, it's that. So, for them to be self-righteous and get on the soapbox, sit down, Junior. It'll be a while for you, okay? And for the other half, the judgmental half, and I was there. If it was me, I wouldn't sign someone like this. I wouldn't do it because, all right, everyone has a past, everyone has whatever. But for me, it's just you basically took your fan base and you put them at each other's throats. This falls on the Rooneys. They did this. They did it knowingly. They did it knowing exactly what was going to happen. And they said, well, we have to run a team. This is the guy we want as our backup quarterback. And we're going to make headlines. And it made headlines for all the wrong reasons. I just kind of put my head down and said, you know what? I hate this part of it. Because my team, they don't want the headlines. They don't indulge in this. They don't give ESPN and all the other non-sports networks all this fodder. You threw a pound of chum in a piranha tank. Why would you do that? I would have taken Russell Wilson, who just got released by the Seahawks. I'm sure a lot of fans would forgive his steroid use or his HGH or whatever he was taking. I would forgive that 5 minutes ago. I'm just, I've resigned to the fact that the NFL is full of guys taking steroids. You could not run a 4.2 naturally. You cannot be J.J. Watt and have a 60-inch vertical leap naturally. I'm just convinced of that. Even our beloved James Harrison. Come on, the guy's 37 years old and he's bench pressing 540 pounds. Come on, guys. You think that's natural? I think all these guys are on performance enhancers. They haven't gotten caught yet, and it's a race to see, who can mask what and who can get this past everybody else and what's still legal. That part of it, you wouldn't have pro football if not for those enhancers. I'll take Russell Wilson. I would have taken Tim Tebow. I'll be honest. I would have taken Landry Jones and lost the football game. That's more important to me than, having somebody who I'm sorry. There's a convicted dog killer on the field. And if I didn't know about it, it wouldn't bother me. Ignorance is bliss. But you put this in front of me, and it's like, well, I know this now. This is all I see. So that'll be a decision every fan has to make. How much can you take? And what will it take, hopefully, or not what will it take to keep you away, but how much can you take and keep going? That's what it comes down to. So, it was, and then to top the cake, icing on the cake, now Martavis Bryant gets a 4-game suspension. So it's like, wow, when it rains, it pours. Now you're just dominating the headlines. Like, wow, thanks, guys. Really. I mean, well, it's not dull anymore, is it? Anybody who's complaining preseason is boring, guess what? The Steelers just took care of that for you. You got plenty to talk about now. Gee, did the Steelers make any headlines yesterday, the day before? Oh, well. I know I went in circles because that's where my head was the last couple of days. All over the place, End of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. The NFL is a business. The Steelers are just another team at the end of the day. Let's face it, they have to compete and everything else, and they're going to do what it takes to win. If they can be moral about it, great. But apparently they saw enough in this dog killer or do I have to call him a reformed dog killer? Is that PC enough? Whatever. I don't know. And for the people who are saying, oh, well, maybe he'll never see the field. Mike Tomlin loves this guy. As much as he treated Charlie Batch as a mannequin on the sideline, he didn't like Charlie Batch. I'm convinced of that. He had his stick up his ass with Charlie Batch. I don't know why, but he did. Maybe he was envious that they were the same age, or Charlie Batch was older and he was still a player. I don't know what it was, but he just would never go to Batch. Unless, literally, there was no other option. It was either go to Charlie Batch or get a kid out of the stands. But I guarantee you he'll give this convicted dog killer or reformed dog killer playing time, because he wanted him back in 2009. So apparently he wanted him bad. And, you know, for anyone to say, well, he won't take the field, maybe I won't have to root for him. Make no mistake about it. Whoever is covering the game will have a camera cemented to that sideline, and this guy will get all the FaceTime he needs. And there'll be a redemption story. He made it all the way to the Steelers after, you've come such a long way, and redemption and whatever. I don't care. Bottom line is, you know, if you're going to say maybe he won't get in the game, it won't matter because the team is still paying him. So it doesn't matter. It really, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. 90% of the fans who say they're going to stay away, they won't, because they can't. So we're all hypocrites. That's what it comes down to. The ones pointing fingers at the so-called bandwagon fans, you're hypocrites, because one day you'll be put in a position where someone will be calling you a bandwagon fan because you had to make a tough decision and a moral decision. And the ones who'll just back anybody, you're hypocrites because, well, a lot of these so-called fans, let's face it, you're backing whomever you have to back because you have to win and you want to be the guy who's on the winning team. As soon as the team goes south, a lot of those fans are going to jump off because, the team's not good right now. They won't do it vocally, but they'll stop wearing their Steelers stuff. You know, if their friends are around and they have their Patriots gear on because the Patriots are winning, well, you know, right away their stuff's going to go in their closet. I've seen it. I've seen the numbers go down in Hoboken. When the team is losing, the numbers are not as good. You know, the line around the block to get into Texas, Arizona isn't there, and all of a sudden there are a couple of seats available. It's still crowded in there, but, you know, those non-playoff years, the back-to-back 8-8 seasons, didn't have the same attendance. When the Steelers were winning Super Bowl 43, and, you know, after that, man, you could not get near that block. People were making reservations, and people were being turned away. We had a second bar for overflow. And I know the NFL ticket has ruined a lot of that, and the economy might have had something to do with that, but let's face it, you know, it all comes down to backing a winner. And a lot of these people who are accusing others of being bandwagon fans, look in the mirror. We all need to look in the mirror because we're all hypocrites. Every last one of us. So save your judgment for each other. Save your judgment for these players, because I don't think Ben Roethlisberger's a nice guy at all. I am not a fan of Ben Roethlisberger, the human being. But I've been going to games ever since this, you know, these rape allegations have been dismissed, ever since I found out what this guy's done in public since before he was a rookie, and you go to games anyway. You know, James Harrison has had his problems with domestic issues. We go to games anyway. He's Joey Porter, or was it Joey Porter? I think it was James Harrison who had a pit bull issue too. His dog attacked somebody or bit his son or something. You look the other way on 95% of it until it gets to the point where it's, this is too screwed up. But the next guy won't think so. So, you know, if you're willing to back them, should you be giving the convicted dog killer a chance too? That's a tough decision. And you know what? It's up to the individual. And nobody has a right to call out anybody else as a true fan versus a fake fan. You know, that's on the inside. And it's football season. A lot of people are just going to go about their business, and maybe that's the way to go. You know, hey, it's early in the morning. It's not even 7 o'clock yet, and I need a second cup of coffee. So thanks for listening, and email me. Let me know what you think. lunatic@steelersandhoboken.com. You know, I almost forgot, with all this going on, we had a trivia winner last week. The trivia question, it was an easy one. What number did Joe Green wear other than his legendary 75? The number, of course, was 72. And my friend Mary Kay from right outside of Pittsburgh, she won. So she gets a Steelers in Hoboken t-shirt. Awesome. Bravo. Well done. And I think that's something she didn't even have to Google. She just knew that. Because before the show was even, an hour old, the answer was in my box. And a lot of people had answered it. So well done. You guys know your history. That was a long time ago. So before I wrap it up, let's go with a trivia question this week. Again, we'll make it an easy one. Who is the all-time leading scorer on the Pittsburgh Steelers? Who scored more points for the Pittsburgh Steelers than any other player in Steeler history? That should be a pretty easy one too. If you've been a fan as long as I have, you know that answer already. Email me at lunatickettstealersinhoboken.com and you'll win a Steelers in Hoboken t-shirt. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game this weekend. Buffalo Bills coming up. Preseason game. It still doesn't count. I don't care if they win or lose. Guaranteed you'll probably see this convicted dog killer under center at some point. So that should blow up social media once again. And it's going to be an all-year type of thing. I guarantee it. So buckle in, man. It's going to be a long season. Anyway, Lunatic out. Have a great week.